Hey everybody, it's Gomedex, and welcome back to another Tinkerer's Cube draft on Magic Arena. Let's see what we've got in this opening pack, and start building a deck. So we've got Patient Rebuilding. This is for a kind of mill strategy. Those are pretty viable, but this is one of the slowest cards for them. Ruin Crab and Ashiok mill way faster. They just get off the ground running at only 1 and 3 mana apiece. This card is fine, but you really need the support to defend yourself if you're going to be dropping down a 5-drop that doesn't defend yourself in any way. So this is a viable pick if you're really into the mill stuff. There's also Merfolk's Secret Keeper here for mill. I have not yet tried a mill deck, so maybe we'll roll with that. But there are some other great options here. Sigil of the Empty Throne would be more for the Enchantress style deck. It's mainly a green-white deck with a ton of enchantments in it, but there's a lot of enchantments in the cube in general, so even in like white-black life gain, you could end up in a deck with enough enchantments that you want to run this. Ancestral Mask, obviously for the same deck, just having a lot of enchantments on the battlefield makes this a really large buff for only 3 mana. And then other than that, nothing super impressive. I don't love taking multicolored cards super early because they do really commit you to whatever strategy they're for. That being said, so would a mill card here, but, you know, I'm going to take the Patient Rebuilding here. Let's take the big, slow mill card and try to build ourselves maybe a controlling deck to operate around that. That being said, if we don't see any cards that really work in mill here, which we kind of don't, I mean, maybe Emery, just because Emery's in blue, but Emery mills yourself and works with a bunch of artifacts in your deck. You can recast them. Pretty cool with stuff like Hedron Archive. Recasting this from your grave to sacrifice it again for value twice in a row is pretty nice. But I think the most powerful cards in this pack are like a Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants, and a Johnny's Pridemate. Definitely the white cards here are looking really spicy. Dragon Master Outcast is good for a rampy kind of red-green deck that can get a lot of lands out early, or just a slower red deck in general. And Soulscar Mage is great for an efficient, just quick, aggressive red deck. There's just a lot of fantastic cards here, none of which really go with Patient Rebuilding, I would say. I think out of all of these cards, if I were taking a white card, I'd kind of want to take a Johnny's Pridemate over the Adversary of Tyrants, just because how irreplaceable it is in the life gain decks, where it's just like a 5/5 for 2 almost immediately. At the same time, I don't know, a Johnny's cooler. A Johnny's definitely cooler, so I guess I'll take the slightly cooler card there. Yeah, I guess a Johnny's like mildly more likely to be played in a non-life gain deck, like a white-blue deck. We could actually play a Johnny, whereas a Johnny's Pridemate would be doing very little if we end up in just like white-blue flyers. Now what do we have here? I kind of like Murmuring Mystic to go with Patient Rebuilding. We just run a ton of instants and sorceries to like harass our opponents, keep them off of their game plan, counter their stuff, put their stuff back in their hand, and all that time we're spitting out chump blocking bird tokens if we have our Murmuring Mystic on the field. So that seems pretty nice there. There's also Threnody Singer, which is a nice, cheap way to slow your opponents down. A 1/3 flash with flying. It can sometimes even just eat one of your opponent's attacking creatures and stay on the board afterwards, which is quite nice. But even if it can't, being able to like block something and shut off the power of something else is good in the early game. So that'd be a card I'd love to wheel here. We'll have to see what ends up open in these packs. I like Into the Royal as a follow-up for the Murmuring Mystic. In terms of the best cards in this pack, Azoni's pretty nice in Golgari. You have a lot of self-mill, a lot of cards that are dumping your deck into your graveyard. And then if you have a lot of creatures in there, you're getting a ton of value off of Azoni, who has a very powerful sacrifice effect to go with the insects that you're creating. Honestly, nothing super duper exciting outside of that. I suppose Mindrack Harpy could also be used in a blue-black mill deck. Although I've primarily used the Mindrack Harpy in Golgari self-mill because it mills yourself as well as your opponent. You know, we did first pick a Patient Rebuilding. I think we got to stay on brand here and take a Mindrack Harpy. Just take the mill this time around. I like Censor for slowing down your opponent. Counter something if they tapped out for it, if they didn't hold at least 1 mana up. There's also Dead Weight, which is really cheap removal spell to really save you from like a really efficient threat like a Venerable Knight or something that's just coming out on turn 1 and really harassing you. There's also Spark Double, which is really fun and powerful. Or Baleful Amit can gain life and trade with something as a 3/2 lifelinker for 3 by itself. It's a pretty solid card. I think I'll take the Censor here. It's just in our core color, and it fits the same philosophy we're kind of going for, trying to take cheap instant sorcery ways to interact with our opponent, to work with Murmuring Mystic, and to protect us and make sure that we can survive till we're casting Patient Rebuilding and getting value off of that card. And now I'll take Vicious Offering for pretty much the same reason, just a nice cheap removal spell. Storm Tamer might be okay, but I don't think Blade Juggler is going to go in this deck. Definitely want to be triggering the Spectacle off of this card for it to be good in cube. Let's take the Vicious Offering there. Instant speed, -2/-2. Pretty nice. I like Talrand's Invocation over Silver Smoke Ghoul here. It gives us 2/2 flying creatures. We're often going to be just using them as blockers if we're a slower deck like we're trying to be. But even then, that is quite nice. And Silver Smoke Ghoul is really nice in a white-black life gain deck where you can consistently gain 3 life in every turn. That way you're constantly returning this from the grave. But we're not that deck, that is for sure. We're going to have some trouble trying to gain 3 or more life in a turn. I like Silent Departure. Again, a pretty cheap way to interact with our opponent, harass them, keep them off their game plan. Same with Chainer's Edict. But there's also Fairy Vandal. Another little cheap flash flyer, and this can get bigger if we're drawing multiple cards a turn. Right now our only way to do that is Patient Rebuilding, but in a blue deck we'd ideally start getting more draw spells. Kind of like all this stuff. I really like Silent Departure and Chainer's Edict. I like both of these a lot because they also combo with Mindrack Harpy if we mill ours. We just get to flash them back. I guess I'll go with Silent Departure over the Chainer's Edict, just because I think we're likely to be heavier into blue, and we wield both the Soaring Thought Thief and the Merfolk Secret Keeper, both of these very fine mill cards. Let's see, Flash Flyer, and it mills 2 cards by itself. If we get more rogues, we'll be milling more cards. Or we have target player mills 4 off of this 1 card, but it's not going to mill them anymore if we get more later. Kind of want to take Merfolk Secret Keeper. It is going to mill our opponent more cards, and it's mono blue. We're trying to have blue be our heavier color here, so Soaring Thought Thief would be a little harder to cast. That being said, Soaring Thought Thief is definitely a more impressive card overall, but I like sticking to the mono blue card there. Hoping we can get stuff like the 2-mana 1/3 Flash Flyer to fill in a similar role to the Thought Thief. I think I'm going to take the Temple of Deceit over the Emery here. There's some cute things you can do with Emery, but we really want to pick up some mana fixing. It's just always really nice to have. And now Foreboding Fruit can draw some cards, draw 2 and lose 2 life. There's also Davriel to make our opponent discard some cards. That could definitely annoy our opponent, but if it's our only discard spell, I don't know how powerful that really is. We're already trying to take a lot of instants and sorceries to go with Murmuring Mystic and stuff, so I kind of like the sorcery over the Planeswalker there. Zoni pretty late. Ooh, Deadweight nice and late. We'll definitely play a Deadweight. Unfortunately, we didn't get that Threnody Singer, that 2-mana 1/3 Flash Flyer, but that would have been pretty fine in here. Compelling Argument is almost definitely going to wheel out of this pack, so we'll just take the next best card for our deck. Farrakhan's Spawn could be good. We could self-mill it off of a Mindrack Harpy, and then use its escape ability for some value, get a nice, sturdy 5/6 blocker, and force our opponents to sacrifice a creature. There's also Chasmina. It makes 2/2/2 blue wizards, and we draw a card and discard a card each time we do that. There's also Carnifex Demon, which can wipe the board of small creatures, giving all creatures -2/-2 potentially, if we remove both counters from it. These are all really solid choices. The Spawn, the Chasmina, and the Carnifex Demon. Deathbloom Thallid could be okay too as an early blocker. I think Compelling Argument's still going to be in this pack for sure, so I'm going to roll with Carnifex Demon, hoping to wheel Compelling Argument. I think I like Carnifex Demon just the best out of those other cards. Just pretty fun. Just whittle down your opponent's entire board. Lol Mage's Domination in a mill deck could actually cost 3 less to cast. So that's pretty cool. It's also just a good card in general. Gain control of a creature with converted mana cost X. So for 4 mana, we gain control of one of their 1 mana creatures. For 5, we gain control of a 2 mana creature, and so on. Even at like 5 to 7 mana, I think this would be super fine against an opponent's aggressive start, especially if we've had the early ways to slow them down, like Silent Departure, Merfolk Secret Keeper blocking things. I think I like the Little Mage's Domination here. Thassa Deep Dwelling might be an argument, but I don't think we have any Enter the Battlefield effects yet. But we could certainly try to pick them up to go with her. I think it's just going to be Little Mage's Domination, though. Vantress Gargoyle. I mean, that's a mill card, right? Pretty on brand, pretty on theme here. We've also got Brain Maggot to disrupt our opponent's plan, disrupt their hand, grab whatever we think they need the most. Definitely interesting, but I think we take the Vantress Gargoyle first. I'm not so sure about the Vantress Gargoyle wheeling because there's going to be 8 cards. 8 cards taken out of this pack by the time it comes back. There's only going to be 3 cards left in this pack by the time it gets back to us, so I don't know if Vantress Gargoyle would be one of those. Sinister Sabotage or Salundi Vision. I like both of these. Lockmere Serpent, too. What I don't like about the Lockmere Serpent is that it is just going to be like bashing our opponent to death, and I think it would be a lot cooler to be just consistently trying to mill our opponent. That being said, this card is just really impressive. 6 mana for a 7/7 flash by itself. It kills your opponent in 3 turns, and it has its first ability to become unblockable. So you can just do that 3 times in a row. It doesn't matter how many creatures your opponent has. They're just going to take 21 over the course of 3 turns. Of course, you have to think about defending yourself in that situation, but I think this card is still just really good. I probably have to just take the Serpent, but we're hoping to wheel Salundi Vision or Sinister Sabotage. Either of those would be super fine in this build. Alright, I like the Merfolk Windrobber here. I wasn't for sure how many rogues are in this cube in general. If I had known that Windrobber was in here also, that would have definitely weighted my pick more towards the Thought Thief than the Secret Keeper. I kind of just assumed there's not a lot of rogues in general, which I suppose even with just Thought Seeker and Windrobber, we haven't seen a lot yet, but if I see like 2 more rogues, I'll probably be a little sad about the choice I made earlier. Okay. Aven Eternal, I guess, blocks things the best. Venomous Aerophant can like mill us, but it doesn't mill our opponent, so it just works with like our flashback. Doesn't seem that exciting. Call of the Death Dweller, I don't think we're going to be likely to have a lot of cheap creatures to bring back. Suppose we have like 3 right now. I don't think that's enough for a Call of the Death Dweller to be returning things. I think we just want to take the Aven Eternal because it gives us 2 blockers for 3 mana. It gives us a 2/2 flying blocker and a 1/1 blocker on the ground. Just good to get out there and try to slow our opponents down. Okay. I think I take Watery Grave here, but Chart a Course is a very fine draw spell, especially with like Windrobber. If we turn 1 Windrobber, then Chart a Course for 2 could draw us 2 cards with no drawback. That would be really nice, but I do love me a dual land. I think I'm going to pick it up here. Just make it a lot less likely that we get stuck on only one of our manas or unable to cast our difficult mana costs, like Little Mage's Domination costs triple blue. That is a pretty difficult mana cost. And we've got some double blues, double black. What now? Baral, Chief of Compliance. So our instants and sorceries cost 1 less, and whenever we counter a spell, we can draw a card and discard a card. That seems very nice. Foulmire Knight's really nice too. 1 mana for a 1/1 Death Toucher, trade off with almost anything. And it has Profane Insight, where we can spend 3 at instant speed to draw a card and lose a life. I think Baral's just cooler in general, so I'm going to scoop up Baral there. We did wheel that Compelling Argument. We're definitely going to take it over the Farrakis spawn. We're only getting 1 of these cards, as there are only 7 cards left in the pack, so definitely got to take Compelling Argument there. Now I guess we're taking Ephemia. 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer. It's kind of whatever. Just blocks in the early game, trades with something, slows our opponent down. If we manage to have a deadweight in our grave when we cast Ephemia, that'll be really good, because then we get to exile our deadweight, and then all of a sudden for 2 mana we get a 2/1 flyer and a 2/2 zombie. That's just insane if we could ever do that. We'll take a Timeret Calls the Dead, I guess. Don't love running that, but we'll see. We wield the Selendi Vision. Not the counterspell, though, so that's a little sad for Brawl. Because Brawl, with that secondary ability, comboing specifically with counterspells. And now we're just scooping up the only stuff in our colors, and then just random stuff we're not playing. Oh no, another rogue. The Black Bloom rogue. Well, that is a thing. I don't even think I really want that here. It doesn't combo with our deck. If we had the Soaring Thought Thief, maybe we would pick that right now. But I kind of want to just take Water Knot, have some removal for our opponent's stuff. Spell Pierce is okay too. It can counter a Planeswalker. It can counter a really scary enchantment. And it is a counterspell to work with Brawl. But I think Water Knot is really important here. We don't have an absolute ton of removal, and we want to have an absolute ton of removal in this kind of slower mill strategy. Really want to see a Ruin Crab. That'd be really sad to not get a Ruin Crab in this deck, but we can deal with that. We've got plenty of other mill. We can still do that sort of game plan. This is the final pack, so we have 7 more chances to see a Ruin Crab. Because the way draft works, obviously, there are 8 packs total, one of which I just opened. 7 more packs that could have a Ruin Crab in there. Come on, opponents. Pass me the Ruin Crab. One time, let's do it. I do like Enthralling Hold a lot, but somebody's taking the counterspells, and Thought Collapse is like the perfect counterspell, so I kind of think I need to scoop that up or it's not going to wheel. I don't think Enthralling Hold would wheel either, but it is good removal, but it's expensive removal. I do really want the Thought Collapse. The counterspell that also mills our opponent can't really get more perfect in the blue-black mill deck that also has Brawl in it. That makes us want to counter spells. I think we're taking Thought Collapse out of that one. I have 24 non-land cards right now, so I'm getting to the point where I get to start cutting things, which is real cool. Midnight Clock might be really nice in here. If we don't take Midnight Clock, what are we taking? Timeret. Timeret's a difficult mana cost, double black on turn 2. We're likely playing this later in the game. I guess it does. It helps give us some action against like Golgari decks, where we'd be milling them and then all of a sudden they're just reanimating everything. That would be a bad time for us, so we could take Timeret just to be able to fight against those, but I think Midnight Clock's going to be pretty fun in pretty much every game, because if we're surviving for a long game, this allows us to shuffle our entire hand and graveyard into our library and then refresh, draw a new 7. That can be just really good. And also helpful for milling our opponents out, because we're shuffling our whole graveyard back in. They're not shuffling anything back. Now I think I want Drown in the lock, but Baron would be good in this deck. Erebos is fun, but Erebos isn't great in this deck just because we don't have a ton of creatures. I think Baron would be pretty good though. 3 mana for a 2/2, and we bounce one of our opponent's creatures or planeswalkers. Just another card to slow them down. But obviously Drown in the lock, just exactly the card for this strategy. We're milling our opponent a bunch already. So now Drown in the Lock will often be active and ready to kill whatever we need to kill or counter whatever we need to counter. Departed, Deckhand, or Falcon Wrath Noble are the cards in our color, or we could try to splash Nicol Bolas. I think Nicol Bolas is just infinitely better than these other 2 cards in our deck, because Nicol Bolas also fits in a slower kind of deck, because you are really trying to flip this card into just an almost unbeatable planeswalker off of the 7 mana ability. Plus, at 4 mana, getting a 4/4 flyer out there and forcing your opponent to discard a card, that can really hinder their plans. I don't think Falcon Wrath Noble or Departed Deckhand are particularly great in our strategy. Deckhand's really good at getting in unblockably, but we're not really trying to kill our opponent with combat damage. Falcon Wrath Noble, it is draining our opponent life anytime one of our creatures dies. But again, we just don't have a ton of creatures, so I don't expect to be gaining a lot of life off of that. So I'm going to take Bolas and really hope to pick up some black-red or blue-red dual lands. Unfortunately, none of these dual lands help us here. So maybe we just take Quench. Counter one of our opponent's spells unless they pay 2. If we do end up splashing red, Experimental Overload is also a choice we could make. Bring back whatever instant or sorcery we need to, and get a blocker when we do that. Seems pretty fine, but Quench is just 100% going to go into this deck, whereas the Experimental Overload is only really going to be if we can pick up that red mana fixing. So that we could run like Bolas as well. Well, I don't really like any of this. Doom Necromancer and Hateful Eidolon, neither of those really work here. I guess Hateful Eidolon works with Deadweight, it works with Ephemia. There's also Terrarion. Terrarion helps us splash Bolas. Yeah, I guess I'll take Terrarion. I do really want to play this Bolas, and that is kind of the pick that I'll make to prove it. Well, we have a lot of fantastic cards for us here. We've got Essence Scatter, counter a creature spell an opponent controls. Callous Dismissal really slows down your opponent. It throws a thing back in their hand and spits out a 1/1 chump blocker, and Witch's Vengeance can kill multiple things. But we've got Psychic Corrosion. Whenever we draw a card, each opponent mills 2. Kind of got to just take Psychic Corrosion. It's the mill card there. That is just what we're looking for. Now we take a 2-mana chump blocker, a 4-mana decently sturdy creature, or like a 3-mana card. We could also play as land. Seeker Squire Black Bloom Rogue here for sure. I don't think it's going to be Carrion Grub. I'm going to take the Seeker Squire, just have another cheap blocker. I don't think we're going to have that much devotion to black, but I don't love the Perilous Mirror. It's good at slowing down your opponent. Chump with a 1/1 and do 2 damage to something. That's almost always going to kill one of their creatures. That might be better than Grey Merchant. Yeah, our black demotion is very often not going to be high at all. Cartouche of Ambition. Or Illusionist Stratagem. We don't have a lot of Enter the Battlefield effects. So I guess Cartouche, but I don't even really want to run that. Don't really want to run either of these, but they're both fine cards. I guess Witching Well is more likely to get played than Erebos in this deck. I don't think we're going to be able to play Bolas. We've got no fixing for it. We could really just go for it anyway. That is one of the top posts on the Magic Arena subreddit right now, I think, is somebody talking about their Tinkerer's drafts lately, and it was I can't fit this jank into this deck, or can I? And they like remove their healthy mana base to fit the jank in. We could absolutely do that. We could just run Bolas just off of throwing 3 mountains in here, but that does mess up our mana a lot for stuff like Lil Mage's Domination, for being able to cast Thought Collapse and Water Knot turn 3. All of these other difficult mana costs are now just hindered by us having 3 mountains in here as well, really mucking up the works. That being said, we could play a Terrarion to help do it. I think we just cut Bolas there. I think I have enough difficult mana stuff going on without him, as cool as he is. So let's sort by our creatures and non-creatures. We got to make 8 cuts here to run a 17 land deck. I think we do want a 17 land deck here. We definitely want to hit our land drops up to like 5. We always want to play Patient Rebuilding as soon as possible. Timeric Calls the Dead feels a little weird here. Exile a creature enchantment from a graveyard to create a 2/2. I guess we've got like enough. We'll probably be hitting that, but take it out. I kind of like trying to cut a decent amount of black cards here so we can be heavily blue, mainly just splashing in the black. So we can really be hitting our double blue cards and our double 3, or our triple blue card, our double 3. That was a weird one. Yeah, and then maybe we can like cut Ephemia. Ephemia, again, really cute with the Deadweight, but that's literally it. Probably just cut Seeker Squire as well and just don't have black cards till the late game, or just removal, which we can play later. Okay. Slendy Vision is also a land, I guess, so we could run 16 lands here with a Slendy Vision as another blue source. I think we're just taking random non-creature stuff out. Maybe Foreboding Fruit. Could cut more creatures, but I don't love that. I like having just at least a few here. I guess I have 11. I could probably cut like one more creature. Maybe the Siren Lookout. This is not a deck where we really want a ton of creatures, but I do want to be able to block things at some points. Midnight Clock might be a little slow for how fun it is. We'll start putting the maybes in this pile between the lands. Maybe on Foreboding Fruit. I think draw power is like certainly fine in here. But I have to cut like 4 cards at least. Because 4 cards in 1 land could be the cuts. Then we're running Solemnity Vision as primarily a land. I'm just going to cut those because it's easy. Again, Talrand's Invocation doesn't make a ton of sense here, but we're basically just using it for more blockers. In which case, I like it just for that. Plus, we could play it turn 3 if we have Brawl out, which is really cool. I think we cut a black source, and then we cut 1 more card. Don't really want to cut Quench, but I do think that Censor is just like a better Quench most of the time. Counters it only unless they pay 1, but we can cycle this in the late game. Once we're at like a board stall and each player has like 10 mana, neither Quench or Censor is ever going to counter anything. And Censor actually lets us cycle it in that situation. That being said, I do like keeping all of the counters that I have in. I think I will take out the Siren Lookout. I was thinking about that earlier, and now I'll commit to that. And let's get rid of the Parallax style on Temple of Deceit. Get your Weebly Woobly 3D out of here. Let's put some beautiful lands in this deck and see how well a Dimir Mill deck is going to work in the Tinkerer's Cube draft. So what lands do we want here? I'm just going to roll with Bolos. Bolos? Sure. I'm going to roll with Bolos again. I am not one for originality, that is for sure. But I'm supposing you all gathered that already if you've been watching all of the Tinker's Cube drafts after drafting mono red like 3 times in a row. Probably should have been clear. I do love me my Hour of Devastation basics. It's kind of hard to ever choose a different one. Alright, well, I mean, it's certainly awkward having the double blue and the triple blue here, but we built our mana base to draw blue sources away more often, so hopefully we don't get super unlucky here and just hit a bunch of swamps, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense statistically. You hear me, Shuffler? You better hear me. It happens, though. RNG is certainly a part of this game. We could absolutely just hit nothing but swamps here. That is a risk we take by keeping this hand. So we've got 9 blue sources and 6 black sources left in the deck. Actually 10 blue sources because Solemnity Vision. I don't believe that untapped.gg counts those. Well, we're off to the mono black start here. I'm just gonna Silent Departure the Skydiver to slow my opponent down and mill them a bit here as I try to draw my blue sources. Skydiver's back. I actually turned the game music off, my bad. Let's get some music in here. Just a little quiet at least. Talrand's Invocation. Ooh. Let's just draw all of our double blue cards instead of our blue sources. Off to a fantastic start in that sense. Now we're still fine here. Mind Rack Harpy is actually exactly what we want to see. Mills both of us, and wow, that was a good mill for us. We could not have cast any of this. I guess we could cast Murmuring Mystic, but we don't have the second blue for Patient Rebuilding. We're 2 mana off from Carnifex Demon. Those are both super fine mills. The draws are back at it again, being pretty awkward, but I guess I get to mill my opponent. They are on Soul Tie, with the Golgari self-mill kind of themes with Brokos in their graveyard. So this is pretty much as bad of a matchup as we could possibly get. We just don't want to see Golgari decks. At least we milled their Thassa's Oracle. Wow, there is no way we were going to win against this deck. I guess it's good to get our mana issues out of the way this game, because they have tons of stuff that cares about their graveyard, like Body Double, Brokos, Lord of Extinction, all of that kind of stuff. We were just dead in infinite ways in this matchup. I mean, like, the funniest thing they do is probably they get to a point where they have, like, no cards left in their library, and then they just, at instant speed, cast Back for More as an instant speed return spell on Thassa's Oracle. An instant speed reanimate there and just win. That would be the coolest way to lose, but it looks like we're just going to die to a Lord of Extinction. Body double copying Lord of Extinction, and then I do expect that they have some reanimate spells as well. I could have Silent Departured that, but I like just permanently tapping that thing down, because if I Silent Departure, they're just going to cast it again this turn and have another 19/19 on the board. So I'm just going to permanently deal with that right now. I guess the argument against it is if I hit another blue, I could Lull Mage's Dominion to steal it, because this definitely costs 3 less to cast at this point. So for triple blue, we steal something that costs 3 or less. For 6 mana, we can steal something that costs 6 or less. So we could steal Lord of Extinction, that only costs 5. So that would be the biggest argument for not permanently tapping down Lord of Extinction. So maybe we can hit the 3rd blue for that. Got 19 cards. They've got 12 cards. I mean, maybe we've got a chance, but I feel like it's just really likely that they'll have the... Well, there's the 3rd blue for Dominion if I play that as a land. Anyways, as I was saying, I do think that it's really likely they'll have a Reanimator spell to cast on Thassa's Oracle. Like, Command the Dreadhorde would even do it. I guess we just throw Multani back into their hand to slow them down, and then I play Salinity Vision tapped, and I get to steal Multani next turn. And then I've got a really big reach blocker. Try to just wait out the rest of this game, get them to mill themselves. They're down to like 10 cards at that point. They're down to 11 right now. Could start trying to win with Lockmere Serpent as well. We did say that before. Hidden for 7 a turn, unblockable. If we can sacrifice the islands for it. Unbreakable Bond. Bring back a Lord of Extinction with a lifelink. Alright, well I guess I'm stealing that, because if I can gain 24 life, I don't think they're gonna beat me with combat damage. That being said, they haven't had to spend any removal spells yet. Down to 8 cards in their library. I've got 15 over here. I will take the 3 down to 11. Saving our Merfolk Wind Robber for the biggest chump block imaginable. Ooh, Psychic Corrosion too? I don't think I can afford to not steal Lord of Extinction right now. They have 8 cards in their library. If I Psychic Corrosion, I'm going to mill them 2 more, so they're down to 7 on their turn. On my turn, I draw a card. They're down to 5. Mindrack Harpy happens too, so they'd be down 2 cards. But then I just like die to a Lord of Extinction. I like block, sacrifice, take 5 there. I do really feel like I need to just take Lord of Extinction. And pass. Oh, I guess I get to draw a card by sacrificing the Wind Robber as well. So that might have actually been... That might have actually been worth it. Because they'd be very close to just milling out. So they would be at 7 right now. They'd be at 4 cards after Mindrack Harpy. I chump block Lord of Extinction, sacrifice Wind Robber. That puts them to 2 cards left in their deck. And then I draw for turn. That's 2 more cards. Well, that would be an option for sure. We're definitely attacking with Lord of Extinction next turn if it's still on the board. and try to gain that life. Brockos, Apex of Forever, mutate it from the grave, give trample, and some more power. So, We're down to 4 cards now. It's got trample, so even if I block it, I'm stopping 1 damage. So I think I just don't block and send in Lord of Extinction. If they've got a lethal pump spell here, pretty much already lethal, unless it was like exactly 1 off from lethal by blocking there. I don't think that's a thing. Ooh, Drown in the Lock to counter something they have. Makes me feel really safe. That can counter basically anything. So I just counter whatever they use to try to bring back Thassa's Oracle, and we actually win. I'll send it with Lord of Extinction. Psychic Corrosion is going to kill them just as fast as their Mind Rack Harpy's ability, so I just need to gain this life, and I've got this game on lock. I'm not going to cast Secret Keeper here. It would give me another chump blocker, but their only attacker is Flying and Trample, so it doesn't block anything relevant, and now I can hold up the mana to be able to pay 1 for Censor, if they have Censor. If they try to counter my counter. With that specific counter. I guess they did tap out of their only blue mana, and now they've got no cards in library. There's Fiend Artisan, sure. No Reanimator spells here, they just die. Stitcher Supplier, sure. That's actually mind-blowing. Did they have any reanimation spells in their grave? Oh, Unbreakable Bond. Alright, well, just hold on to Drown in the Lock so we can counter Back for More, which is an instant speed reanimate spell. Because if they cast Back for More on Thassa's Oracle, they would win right there, so we'll just pass. And counter that if they have it. That's a no. Actually, milled out the Golgari self-mill deck. I guess they were Sultai splashing in for the Thassa's Oracle. I did consider that once on a live streamed draft. it was cute. Didn't end up doing it. Just stayed full on Golgari self-mill. Okay, well, I guess them self-milling so much really got there for us. The Mind Rack Harpy really was what did it. Just milling them 3 a turn. I suppose it milled everybody 3 a turn, but they were definitely getting milled faster since I'd targeted them several times with other mill spells. So that was a pretty nice game overall. I was convinced we weren't going to make it there. Like, when you're just fueling all of their self-mill strategies, I was expecting a lot more Reanimator spells. And just more Lord of Extinction type stuff, but I guess I did have a lot of interaction to stop that kind of stuff. So we've got nice just early game interaction, counter their first spell, drop an Aven Eternal for multiple blockers. Don't have any black mana, but we don't have a ton of black cards in here, so we can wait a while on that. I think this hand is fine. It's not super exciting. We're not like really presenting our game plan and putting 1 foot forward or anything. We're just kind of chilling, just trying to slow our opponent down. If we had like a patient rebuilding in this hand, I think it'd be basically perfect. Because then that's our game plan. Just play patient rebuilding on turn 5 and hope that wins the game over time. Uh-oh. A mountain will start things for our opponent. Now we've got Solemnity Vision at instant speed too. I like that. Grab an instant or sorcery from our top 6, and we can hold Solemnity Vision up and quench at the same time. That way, if we don't end up quenching something, we can just Solemnity Vision instead later on. Obviously, we can't do that right now. That would be just for if we don't quench something this turn. Which we might. We'll have to see. Nope. Keep your 3-1 that comes back from the grave, because I'm going to play a 1-1 chump blocker. And also, that thing is going to come back from the grave so many times because we're going to be milling our opponent. So I really don't think countering that is worth it. Shock the Aven Eternal. Okay. Set in the Rage Hound. I'll trade for now. Just want to slow down our opponent. It can come back from the grave. I think it costs like 4 cards to do that. Yeah. Now they have an Ephemia. That's fine. 4 mana here, so we're just holding up Quench or Solemnity Vision. Exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a land, add red or green. Otherwise, gain 2 and each opponent loses 2. Yeah, I think I gotta stop that. They get to get a token out of it with Ephemia, which is pretty bad, but if our plan is to sit here behind an enchantment that slowly kills them, like Patient Rebuilding, we can't let them also have an enchantment that slowly kills us, because then we'll just die. In conjunction with all of their creatures actually just dealing damage to us. So I really don't like that they get a 2-2 here, though, because I did this, but I can Lull Mage's Domination for a 2-2 for only 3 mana, so that's kind of cool. Really hoping to get to, like, Lochmere Serpent mana, so we can have a big old 7/7 blocker for any of their zombie tokens that they're planning on hitting us with. Take 2, I'm down to 18. Ephemia has stolen Clothis from the grave, replacing her with a 2/2 zombie. And now I have Vantress Gargoyle. I can play Vantress Gargoyle and I can block with it because I've got 4 more cards in hand. Yeah. Kind of stops Ephemia here. I don't get to play Solemn Vision now. I don't even get to play it as a land, or I can't block this turn, but I think this is better. Pretty handedly stops their stuff unless they throw a removal spell at it, which is fine too. Yep, there's the removal spell. And that could have killed an enchantment, so I guess that's one less answer to... I don't know if I actually want to do that, but that's one less answer to Patient Rebuilding or anything if we can draw that. I guess we didn't play Patient Rebuilding at all last game, so there's no big reason to expect it to show up here. I can Lull Mage's Domination their Ephemia. Do I have any enchantments in my grave? No. So that would just be grabbing a 2/1 flyer. Being ready to trade it off with one of their cards. Otherwise, I'm playing Mindrack Harpy, but that fuels their Underworld Ragehound stuff. Kind of like just taking a... then I don't have it for something bigger. Mindrack Harpy isn't going to block anything here, though, so then I'm just taking 4, going to 10. I don't love doing this, but I'm just taking Ephemia here. I also like holding on to Mindrack Harpy so that I play it later also when they probably have less removal spells, because milling 3 a turn is a pretty big clock. Murmuring Mystic. I do like putting that out. I guess it blocks the 2/2 and then it doesn't do anything else till I've got the mana for Solemn Vision. 24 cards in their deck. If I play Mindrack Harpy, I guess I can block their Aerophant and get a 2/2 zombie off of Ephemia the next turn. And then I just take 2. Aerophant is really going to be an issue here. I'm at a low enough life total, I guess I'm okay with trading Harpy off. Again, don't love it. I probably should have just played Solemn Vision at this point. Which, I suppose... Do I have any enchantments in grave now? No. I'm actually going to play Solemn Vision so I can play Lochmere Serpent, and maybe I'm actually just trying to bash my opponent in. Maybe we're actually racing here, which sounds really weird, but well, we've got a 7/7 out. It's definitely viable. Mill the Star of Extinction from our opponent. Got rid of the big boom. Acolyte of Affliction. Return a permanent from their grave to their hand. And they've milled themselves a little more. I mean, now they're down to 18 cards. That really makes me want to not trade with Mindrack Harpy so much, because they're getting there. Yeah. I could trade a Lochmere Serpent for the Aerophant. I really don't love that, but it's a thing I could do. 6 mana here. I can Silent Departure their Aerophant, and then if they want to get that threat back on the board, they have to mill themselves 3 more. I kind of like doing that. I don't love playing another instant or sorcery without the Mystic on the board, but I can play Wind Robber and do that in the same turn. Sure. That actually seems pretty big. Mindwreck Harpy's not going to be blocking here. I think that's my game plan now. So we'll just send it in. They're down to 14 cards. And there's Drakuzeth. Well, need to draw removal for that. That just kills me the second it attacks because it does 7 damage to any target. Or no, it only does 4, but it has 7 power, so if it ever hits me, it kills me. And it kills me in 2 turns from just attacking. I think I have to sacrifice the Wind Robber to draw a card here and try to draw an answer. Mill them 4 more, they're down to 10 cards. Still not quite it. I can play Murmuring Mystic and Secret Keeper mill them for 4. Mindwreck Harpy's going to mill them 3 more this turn. They're down to 7 cards in their deck. If I play Mystic and Secret Keeper, then I have 1, 2, 3 more blockers. I've got 4 blockers total. They can't shoot all of my blockers, but they can shoot all of my flying blockers. So I do just die, right? 4 to any target, 3 to 2 other targets. Yeah, I just don't have an out because they can kill all of my blockers that have flying. Drakuzeth's pretty brutal. We didn't draw any of our counter spells to even hold them up against that. I mean, except Quench. If I held on to Quench literally all game long, then maybe I had a chance here, but I don't think so. Drakuzeth just gonna come in and really do it to me over here. Well, we got him down to 6 cards. It's kind of a thing. We tried. Hey, 5 cards because they cycled. Now they're just showboating. They're just like, look how much you couldn't have milled me. I'm just going to draw a million cards anyway. Scavenge Goose, send in, shoot my flyers, and that is game. Very rude final turn from opponent. Alright, let's head into another round here. Don't have a ton to say about that game. We tried. It's basically just Drakuzeth. If it weren't for Drakuzeth, I think we actually had a really good chance that game. With how we'd positioned ourselves with our Mindwreck Harpy near the end. With the Lochmere Serpent as a backup as well. Just having that massive flying threat that also just blows up all of our flying blockers when it attacks in. There was really not anything we could do unless we just immediately drew into Waterknot or something. I guess if we had held on to our Silent Departure, we could have done that there. Slow them off, slow them down 1 turn, but then we still didn't draw another counterspell after that, so... Just comes out 1 turn later, kills us 1 turn later. So we're 1-1 with Dimir Mill. That is a win against Golgari / Sultai. They were splashing in some blue. And then a loss against Gruul. You know, it's weird. I forced mill a little bit here. So we don't actually really have the 2 strongest mill cards, which is really sad. We didn't see Ruin Crab or Ashiok. But those are really good. Those really get the mill off the ground running. They throw a lot of gas onto the fire. Alright, well, turn 3 Psychic Corrosion is definitely a start to a game. Into turn 4 Mindwreck Harpy. If our opponent doesn't have a really quick start, this hand is going to win in a long game, so if our opponent's on a slow deck, I'm very happy here, and I certainly hope that they are. Double white to start it off into Core Spirit Dancer. Well, they're going to be like an Enchantress deck, so they're likely to draw a lot of cards off of that. I guess it is a May ability, but still. Don't have anything else to do for 2 mana, so we just dump that into Compelling Argument. Oh yeah, they're Enchantress. Sigil of the Empty Throne in the grave now. Not going to be spitting out any 4/4 Flying Angel tokens now, are you? Yeah, definitely just dropping down Psychic Corrosion. So they're on white-green Enchantress. They have not drawn a green source still. Alright, that means our opponent is stuck on a slow start. Could absolutely start getting there off the Mind Rack Harpy if they don't have removal for that. Now we're milling them 5 a turn. We've got a Lockmere Serpent in the grave to bring back. Sentinel's Eyes on Core Spirit Dancer allows them to draw a card and turns that into a 3/5 Vigilance. Real big threat. Definitely can't block that. Little Mage's Dominion on Spirit Dancer might just end this game, to be honest. They're down to 16 already. They're going to have 13 cards left after this turn. Yeah, I don't really think I need to be milling them any faster. Let's just try to take their only creature on this board so I know that I survive, and then I just pass. Just kind of chill. Mill them 5 cards a turn. They've only got 12 cards left. That's the concession. Still did not draw a green source. Really rough one for our opponent, but I was only like turn 6, probably. So that was really fast mill going on there. Psychic Corrosion and a Mind Rack Harpy. So really just didn't give them the time to draw into their green mana. Alright, 2 wins and 1 loss it is. Back onto a positive record here. I'm not incredibly confident in this deck. This is another deck I'd love to see like a 4-3 run with. That's where I'd be happy, and 3-3 is about where I'd expect off of this one. But we'll see where it goes. I've said that before, especially about my like 5-color deck. I thought for sure that wasn't going to go far, and then it did like 6-3, I think. Don't remember exactly. Alright. Deadweight and Waterknot. Definitely playing the Solundi Isle, so that we know we've got our double blue for Waterknot and our double blue for Patient Rebuilding. Got some high mana costs to this hand. We're definitely wanting to play this as a land. Alright, let's get that island out on the field. Our opponent starts off with an island of their own. Ooh, that's a nice draw for turn 2. Didn't have a turn 2 play otherwise. May as well drop down a Brawl. Make all of our instants and sorceries 1 cheaper. Opponent starts with a Spectral Sailor. That seems like a pretty prime target for Deadweight because we've got Waterknot as a backup. Kind of want a Deadweight Fearless Fledgling over that though, but drawing Talrand's Invocation is pretty nice. We can just make a couple 2/2 flying blockers, and neither of those are getting in this turn then. I guess Brawl can't really block anything anyway, so we'll poke him for 1 damage. Both of these are going to have flying by the time they attack from the landfall ability. 3 mana for our opponent, triggering landfall on Fearless Fledgling, sending a 2/2 flyer into the sky. And a Siren Storm Tamer to stop me from using any removal. I don't like that, but at least I kill Storm Tamer with my Deadweight, if nothing else. Alright, now I'm just sitting here with Deadweight and Waterknot is the only thing I can do, and they have the blue mana to counter it. I guess I'm trying to Deadweight Fledgling, but they're just going to sacrifice the Storm Tamer. I'm not just going to pass to them here. Let's at least get rid of one of their creatures. Even if we just get rid of Storm Tamer, we're getting rid of something here, and we still have Waterknot to kill Fledgling later. No matter how big it gets, Waterknot can deal with it, keeping it permanently tapped. Whereas Deadweight, the only time Deadweight was going to work on Fledgling would be right now anyway. I don't think I'm getting aggressive here. I could send in with everybody. They probably don't block. Take 5 down to 14. Guess I followed up with a Mind Rack Harpy if I hit another land. I don't feel I'm really in the position to try to get super aggressive here. Because all they have to do is play like a decent 4 mana creature, and I'll just be immediately halted. They did hit the land for the Fledgling, sending it in the sky as a 3/3 flyer. And they Sky Tether one of my Drakes. So now I only have a 2/2 flyer to block, which means I cannot block the Fledgling and kill it. I can only chump block. There's a Danitha from our opponent. We have hit 4 mana. I can Water Knot the Fledgling. They only have 1 card left in hand. So that's probably okay. That, or I'm playing Mindrack Harpy, trying to get the mill off the ground running, but I've got Patient Rebuilding coming up too. What could they play in like white-blue that would be like scarier than a 4/4 flyer next turn? I guess Fledgling only attacks if they are hitting landfall every turn, and they've only got 1 card in hand. I think I can take the time to actually play Harpy here. Start getting some mill going. Because the Fledgling is only attacking every time they draw land. Which is right there, but that's okay. I can take 1 more hit from it for sure, go to 12. Send in Danitha. Send in Fearless Fledgling. Not sending in the Spectral Sailor. If I double block Danitha, if they don't have an instant in their hand, I kill Danitha, but I lose my only flying blocker, so I start getting beat up by Spectral Sailor. Potentially. I guess Mindrack Harpy is a flying blocker, so if I shut off Fearless Fledgling, then my Mindrack Harpy's big enough to block Spectral Sailor forever. Yep. I'm basically only losing a creature that could chump block anyway off of this block, unless they have a pump spell. I mean, I guess there's also the argument that I could have double blocked the Fledgling with Mindrack Harpy and a 2/2 Drake. Vicious Offering is just a beautiful draw here. Do I just try to Vicious Offering the Fledgling instead of Water Knot it here? I don't think so. I can just sacrifice my 2/2 Drake to do that. For -5/-5. Yeah, I kind of like that. Actually, I could Offering the Spectral Sailor so they can't draw a card every turn off of that. Yeah, let's just get rid of all their stuff. Let's go for a Water Knot and Fledgling, see what happens here. They draw a card. But that resolves. Well, now I get to send in with Mindrack Harpy and then just Vicious Offering -2/-2 to Spectral Sailor. Even though we're a mill deck, so we would like them to run out of cards in their library faster, drawing cards is still inherently very powerful, because they could always draw into something like Archon of Redemption or Master Splicer that would just be a really scary threat. Excuse me. So while we are trying to mill them, we still want to stop them from drawing a bunch of extra cards. We don't want them to be using everything that's going to their graveyard. We just want to throw it in there. So we hit the 5th mana for the Patient Rebuilding. We're definitely not attacking in with Mindrack Harpy, because now we're milling 6 a turn. They're at 15. 3 more turns and we'll mill them out. So we're going to take that too. Alright. Here's turn 1. We milled 3 lands, means we draw 3 cards. Beautiful. And we hit a Psychic Corrosion and a Thought Collapse. I feel incredibly safe now. I can't Silent Departure and hold up Thought Collapse, because I'm definitely putting Psychic Corrosion out, because they're just like dead next turn, I think. They mill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably like 10 cards next turn. Yeah, this should be just, if I survive through this turn, then I just mill them out, because they're at 9 cards right now. Yeah, I'm just going to pass, hold up Thought Collapse instead of Silent Departure. Silent Departure would be good here to get one of the flyers back in their hand, but I can take 6 if I can counter anything that they play. Eight cards. I'm milling at least 6. I'm milling at least 8 if all of these are still on the board, because I draw a card during my draw step. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And potentially I'm milling more if I'm drawing extra cards off of Patient Rebuilding, then I'm milling like 10 or 12 cards instead. And if I get to counter something here, I'm milling 3 more cards there. I'm pretty sure we've got this. Yeah, now they have 1 card in hand. Literally, whatever card in the game it is, we can cast Thought Collapse on it. There are no uncounterable spells in this cube, I'm pretty sure. Oh, and I get to draw and discard off Baral to mill them some more here? Sure. It's pretty cool. Discard Censor, I guess. 3 cards left, so that's just it. They now have 0 cards left. And we pass the turn. Alright. I'm now confident that Mindrack Harpy is very nice in Dimir Mill as well. Just mill 3 cards a turn over time, just adds up really quickly. So I am glad that I took that. The whole thing I was thinking about it was just from the green-black reanimator perspective. So I wasn't even really looking at it as a mill card for a while there. And then when I put two together and ended up taking it, I was still like, I don't know, this is probably good. I'm very glad I picked it up because it is putting in a lot of work here. So we did it. We made it. 3 wins and 1 loss. Whatever happens now. 50-50 win rate. 3-3 at the worst. Having a pretty great time with our mill deck. We have become what we despise. Didn't even get the Ruin Crabs or the Ashioks, though. But, again, I do like to try out like every strategy in draft. So, it is nice to try this strategy just the one time. I don't think I'm going to end up drafting Mill again very often. It just seems really mean to me. Super rude. Not that it's particularly like powerful or anything, just that it's definitely annoying. Dread Horde Invasion from our opponent. Well, luckily our Vantress Gargoyle is going to be able to block almost all the time. I guess I can cast Salundi Vision next turn. Kind of want to just play that as a land for my double blue, like Talrand's Invocation, and I've got a triple blue coming up. I probably should have just played that as a land right now, because I don't think I'm casting that. Yeah, that was a minor punt there. I could have confirmed that I have 4 mana, including 2 blue up next turn, so I could have confirmed that I can cast Talrand's Invocation next turn. But I didn't even think about playing Salundi Vision as a land, because I just saw it in my hand as a non-land card, and I was like, ooh, I could cast that. Turn 3, I got 3 mana, let's cast Salundi Vision. But it's actually just better as a land right now. Get my double blue. Well, our opponent is self-milling a little bit with Timuret Calls the Dead, so I like that. That being said, they definitely have some graveyard synergies, which I don't like, because that means they're getting value here, as we can see from Farika's spawn. Vicious Offering is the draw. Yeah, this is where things get awkward, because we could have played Talrand's Invocation here, but since I didn't do that thing, I can't. If I play any of these cards, Vantress Gargoyle can't block, and they're both removal spells, and their creatures suck right now, so I'll just play the Secret Keeper. Hold these up. I could do Vicious Offering at instant speed, which I might do at like their end step if they play a scarier creature. Right now a 5/4 is plenty large to block their stuff. Ooh, they milled their Ashiok. Ashiok is actually so good at milling that Ashiok could probably out-mill my deck by itself. Because 5 loyalty, a -1 ability, so it mills you 4 cards 5 times. The card single-handedly mills somebody 20 cards if you defend it the whole time. Angrath, give everything Menace. Well, I'm still fine. I can block something with a 5/4 and a 0/4.
Ramming speed.
Oh, not if they turn into a 4/4, I can't. I think I declare the block here and then Vicious Offering that, because then they amass and they just get another 2/2. So I kill it without losing a creature by doing this, and now I make sure all their creatures are like 2/2s or less next turn. I guess they'd have a 3/3. because of because Dreadhorde Invasion amasses 1, and then Angrath amasses 2 more. But even a 3/3, I can double block and kill that without losing a creature. I think for that reason, I just chill here. Definitely not dead waiting. Probably not Perilous Mirror. Yeah, I just pass, I think. So my 5/4 can still block. I mean, blocking with 2/2/2 Flying Drakes is fine too against a 3/3 menace. But I like being able to block with a creature that won't die. I just get to keep everything on my board. Eldest Reborn. Never mind. I'm not keeping everything. Let's get rid of the Merfolk Secret Keeper. Doesn't mill anymore at this point. Vantress Gargoyle mills one more card a turn at least. But now they are free to get in with all their menace creatures. So now I'm gonna have to start playing more blockers with Tolerance Invocation and stuff. Mindwreck Harpy though. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I take 8 damage next turn. I go to 8 life. But then I'm milling them 4 here. They're down to 12 cards. It goes to my next turn. I mill them 4. They're down to 8 cards. I have to really, really do a lot to defend myself the turn after I play this Mindwreck Harpy, if I play Mindwreck Harpy now. At the same time, Talron's Invocation doesn't even defend me that well. I get to block 1 creature. So I can block their 4/4 with 2 2/2s, and then I lose all my creatures. I'm going to discard a card here anyway due to Eldest Reborn, so there's no argument for keeping these cards in hand to block with Gargoyle. It's not going to work out. I'm just going to play the Mindwreck Harpy. This is super risky. But let's go risk reward here. Angrath is just a real problem. I guess Perilous Mirror is probably the best option for just getting rid of Angrath, getting rid of that menace for the defensive option. If I hit 1 more blue, I can actually lull Mage's Dominion, and I can do that for just triple blue. This is actually a really difficult discard as well. How many blue sources do I have left in my deck that haven't been milled? 3? Oh wait, no, I've got my 2 dual lands as well. I have 5 blue sources left. Like 1 in every 4. One of them comes into play tapped. I really hate this, but I'm going to discard Lil Mage's Dominion. Because Perilous Mirror can shoot Angrath. I probably should have just played Perilous Mirror that turn and gone for a double block to get rid of Menace on Angrath. Sengir Vampire. Alright, that is the first time I've ever seen Sengir Vampire cast in this cube. Definitely a classic card, but I think it's just generally too weak for this cube. I just think just by general, like, standard Magic power level, it's only really good and limited. And cube is still limited, but it's limited with like the best constructed cards, or a lot of them. So I can Perilous Mirror, I can Dead Weight, and I can Silent Departure. So that's something for sure. Do I Deadweight the Sengir Vampire to turn it into a 2/2? I don't think I do, because I can't block with Vantress Gargoyle anyway, but I don't want to Silent Departure the Sengir Vampire, because I can Silent Departure the 4/4 zombie and just kill that. I can't just, like, take 4 in the face from the Sengir. I guess I can do that one time. Alright, let's take 4 to the face from Sengir Vampire one time, and then next turn we can flashback Silent Departure on it, or we can play 2 2/2 flyers and block with those. Our opponent's down to 7 cards in their library. We mill them 1 now. Down to 6, it goes to our turn. Mindwreck Harpy mills them 3 more. They're down to 3. Compelling Argument is already in our grave, so we can't draw into that. Patient Rebuilding's in our grave. I don't have a ton of outs. Ooh, they choose Ashiok here. I don't actually know how I feel about that choice. Because I think I still out-mill them, because they've played it so late here. Fairy Spawn. That's actually beautiful for me. That's really good for me. Because now, I'll just sack Perilous Mirror. I don't even have to double block. Get rid of Menace.
The fire's out, but the embers burn on.
That being said, I only have like a 3-2 right now. Okay, I'm down to 13 cards. They're still at 7. They do get rid of my Silent Departure. That hurts a little. Now the Gargoyle can't attack or block, but that's okay. I have to take 6 here or lose my Mind Rack Harpy. I can't really afford to do that, so I just take 6. Yeah, I guess I just die. I might still have a mill card I forgot about. That's definitely not it. I'll have 3 blockers. 3 blockers is just not enough. Because this is going to be a 2-2 on their turn, so I'll just die to the 2-2. 6 cards in their library. They're going to have 3. They're going to have 2 cards left in their library. Well, close one. I have no idea why they chose to bring back Ashiok. Because they straight up just, with Mind Rack Harpy on my board, they just get milled faster than me. They go to 2 cards now. I think if they just picked literally like any creature in the game, they've got a lot of really scary creatures in their graveyard. I would probably just be dead even faster. But I am still dead if they just slap all attack. And they've got, yeah, Chainer's Edict as well. Get rid of one of my blockers. Let's mill everybody a card. Sacrifice my creature that can't block anyway. But then they just all attack. I'm at 2. All their creatures have at least 2 power. 1 card in their deck. Yep, there's the all attack. Really close game here. Really close game. I think that game was close enough that my decision with the Perilous Mirror, if I had just played like Perilous Mirror earlier, I might have actually been able to win that game. So I could just get rid of the Menace earlier before I played like my Drake blockers and stuff, so I could actually get a lot of blocks going on. But the Menace was really, really brutal in that early game. I definitely wouldn't have won trading off with Mind Rack Harpy earlier, just to save more damage, or Vantress Gargoyle even, against like the Sengir Vampire or anything like that. I think the taking 6 there was fine, because they ended up pulling Ashiok out of their grave, so if I wasn't proactively milling as much as I was, then yeah, they could have just absolutely milled me out. So blocking and trading off with some of our mill threats wouldn't have worked out either. I think it was pretty much just, I should have been more aggressively trying to get rid of Angrath and stuff with Perilous Mirrors and better blockers there. Alright, so 3 wins and 2 losses. This could be the final game if we lose this one, so we've got to try real hard not to. Whatever happens now, though, we've made it 3 wins. So our run will be perfectly even. Nice average 50-50 run. The general standard. And I'm just going to pass here. Hold up a nice 4 toughness blocker if they want to get in with Brawl. I doubt it. Looks like the mirror match here. Another Dimir deck with a Watery Grave and 2 islands. Let's mill everybody a card, see what we hit. A land from us both. Alright, Talrand's Invocation. I don't see why not. We're not really getting rid of Brawl here. Let's play the Talrands. I didn't say please, that's true. That's my bad. Sorry, I'm just turning off my phone notifications. That was my bad. I actually watched, there's like a Netflix movie documentary about like phone notifications and stuff, and how, is this my turn or their turn? It's my turn. Yeah, we'll end turn. How intrusive they are and stuff, and how they're like designed that way. It was pretty interesting, but it was also very, very over the top in the way that it wanted to present how negative these things were. But it made a good enough argument to where I was like, yeah, I don't, you know what? Let's just turn all the phone notifications and shit off. That is actually, it's the kind of thing that like, even before you watch a documentary about how they're like designed to try to hook you in and stuff, you're like, these are just really annoying. So it doesn't take a lot of convincing for me to be like, okay, let's just shut all that off. Let's just stop. Okay. How many cards are in their grave? Not a lot, just 4. Will Mage's Dominion costs the full mana. I could borrow Baral, but I can't take the Murmuring Mystic. I could play Aven Eternal and sacrifice the 1/1 to kill the Mystic. I don't get to block with Gargoyle anymore there, but that's okay. I am very scared about Mystic, and they only have a 1/3 on board without it, so I don't even need to block here. Five mana. There's Fibblethip the Lost. What's he doing here? Where's he going? He's drawing a card. And another pass turn. This deck might be like heavily built around Brawl. They might just have a handful of counters here. I hope not. I could lull Mage's Dominion yet again for a 1/3 or a 1/1, neither of which do a lot in our deck. Or I can Water Knot basically nothing here, or I can try my best to resolve a Mind Rack Harpy. Oh! Okay, it resolved. Let's get milling then. This is going to be a scary matchup because we're both a mill deck, so they could just as easily mill me out. I mean, I'm currently 1 less card in my library than they are. Just because I went second, I think. Actually, I don't remember who went second. We're actually at exact parity. Both of us have 19 cards in our library, but I draw a card first. Oh no, they shame scooped. They embarrassment scooped. That's really sad. That actually would have been an absolutely huge card in this matchup. So it's draw 3 cards and then target player mills 3, but they cast it and then they just clicked on themselves because they're like, yeah, target player draws 3, I'm going to draw 3. But it doesn't target for the draw part. So since it only targets once when you cast this card, if you cast it and then you click on your own face, you just mill yourself 3 and then draw 3. So I don't think it was the end of the world for them, but it certainly helped me a lot. There were a lot of ways they could still get out of that, especially in just like any deck. If they had like an Ashiok, they could immediately start milling me faster than I mill them, even with that extra 3 mil that I got from that. I guess that's kind of 6 mil because they draw 3 and mill 3, but certainly a rough one for our opponent. Just another one of those things that it just happens in like digital Magic because of the formatting of the cards and everything. You have to be very specific about what you're doing on some stuff, and they're the kind of mistakes that can happen that never happen in Paper Magic, because in Paper Magic you don't just accidentally be like, all right, I play Weight of Memory and I mill myself 3. It's like, no, you just say, I'll play Weight of Memory, I'll draw 3, you mill 3. It's a lot easier to just say that than to like figure out if you're clicking at the right spots. Easy mistake to make, so I don't think my opponent should have like embarrassment scooped there, but could have also been an anger scoop, you don't know. In which case, like, okay, that's fine. That stuff certainly happens to the best of us. I had a draft pretty recently where in Guilds of Ravnica, it happened all the time where I would accidentally go into combat before buffing up my like mentor creature, and once you get into combat, it's like too late, because then you just like click the all attack button and your mentor trigger goes on. It's too late to buff your goblin mentor guy. So I've had like stuff like that happen for sure. Wow, this hand is this hand looks really mean. This is the kind of hand that if I'm playing against somebody who rage scoops, they might rage scoop, but if they don't, I don't actually have like action here. I mill them a ton of cards, but then I don't have like great board presence or anything. I just hope that that irritated them enough, because I'm gonna mill them like 10 cards immediately. Yeah, that's 9 cards down, and then I thought collapse whatever the next thing they do is, and I've got a water knot for their first creature. I don't think I'm playing Merfolk Secret Keeper, because I can just hold on to this Thought Collapse. It makes it really obvious, but it's still fun to do, because then we've milled them 12, like, immediately. Do need 2 more mana to hit Patient Rebuilding. That will be really good this game. They're already at only 20 cards left. Looks like another blue-black mirror match. Drawing Vantress Gargoyle makes me kind of want to... because now I can play Gargoyle and Secret Keeper, and then just hold Thought Collapse up in a future turn. Now that I'm actually playing like 2 things here, I think that's fine. They do just have the Quench for the Gargoyle. But we got Quench out of the way, maybe that makes Patient Rebuilding more likely to resolve later on. Kazmina makes all of their permanents cost 2 more to target.
Join my cause.
They're creatures and planeswalkers. So it doesn't make their spells cost more to target, so we can still Thought Collapse for only 3, which is good. I've got 4 lands here. We're going to keep the Swamp. That's our 5th land, so we can cast Patient Rebuilding next turn. Don't need to deal with a 2/2 blocker, and I can't even if I want to. I'd have to spend 5 mana because of Kazmina's ability, making the wizard more versatile against removal. I don't think I need to Thought Collapse that. I'll just hold on to this. Ooh. Our opponent is, oh no, they had a Nicol Bolas as well, but they actually had some of the mana fixing to go with it, Steam Vents. So they were probably like Dimir and then maybe just splashing in Bolas. Or they could have been Izzet, splashing in a Dimir card. Suppose we haven't seen a black card other than Bolas. Oh no, they have a Lockmere Serpent too, never mind. We both have a Lockmere Serpent. So they're just full Grixis, that's pretty cool. They have 2 mana up. What are the odds of a Negate? We already got rid of a Quench. It would have to be Negate or Censor. Those are the only 2 cards in the cube. No, don't you dare. Okay, alright, it resolved, okay. I got really concerned when it just held on them after I tried to cast that. Okay, so we have a Patient Rebuilding. Lockmere Serpent's definitely going to do stuff for them this game, if they want it to. They can easily use that ability later on here. I guess I don't have a Mind Rack Harpy out, so they can't do it yet. Maybe they won't. Actually, no. They're down to 14 cards. I guess I don't even need a Mind Rack Harpy to finish milling them here. So maybe I won't have 5 cards in hand. Or in graveyard. So Blink of an Eye on Patient Rebuilding to slow down my mill. I've got 1 blue mana up here, so it's not going to be enough to counter the rebuilding, so I think we just go for it again. I could also Lockmere Serpent now that I hit my 6th mana. I could also Water Knot and Thought Collapse, but I think we just go for Patient Rebuilding. They're at 13 cards in their library. Just trying to race that down to 0. And in Grixis, they won't have a ton of ways to deal with enchantments. Most things that can deal with enchantments are green or white, the 2 colors that they are not. But they could have plenty of Blink of an Eye style effects to just slow it down. Again, we're not under a lot of pressure here, so I'm feeling pretty good about our chances, even if they have a loaded hand. We've got an 0-4 blocker against their field, so we're only taking 3 a turn. They pick up Blink of an Eye again. I guess they're just... yeah, in blue, red, black, that's really your only way to interact with enchantments. So they're just going to keep trying to throw it back in my hand enough times to slow me down on the mill plan. But now I've drawn in Psychic Corrosion, and I get to hold up Thought Collapse still here, and play another land for next turn, so I can hold up more mana then. I think I just counter any way they have to interact with one of these, and that should just mill them out next turn. Possibly. This is at least 5 cards getting milled. If I mill them land cards, I draw extra cards, and for every extra card I draw, I mill them 2 more. So I need to hit... let's see, they're milling 5. I need to hit 2 lands off of the Patient Rebuilding mill. And if I do, they are immediately milled. I guess with Thought Collapse, they're also immediately milled. I take 2, 4, 5, 6. Sure. Now I just Thought Collapse their blink of an eye, and that's enough mill to immediately kill them. Or I have to get lucky if they don't cast something else here, but I think they'll cast something else to try to interact. If they do, they die no matter what. Because that's exactly 8 mil, even if I hit no lands off the rebuilding. Alright, well I hit 1 land off of the rebuilding, draw into a dead weight. Got Quench and Water Knot. Quench and Water Knot. I meant dead weight and Water Knot for slowing them down if they don't cast anything here. Down to 1 card in their library. Yeah, I just need to not die next turn then. And if I hold up Thought Collapse, then I can do even more than that. So let's just start dealing with their creatures in the cheapest ways that I have. Ooh, yeah, Casmina makes my spells cost 2 more on their stuff. I only have 4 mana up after I do that. I guess Lowell Mage's Dominion costs 3 cheaper. So I could do that for just 3 here, even with Casmina. Because it costs 2 more, but it costs 3 less. So this is actually just as expensive as Deadweight would be, so I might as well steal one of their creatures, because it's like mildly scarier for them. And I can't afford to do another one of these and hold up Thought Collapse, so I'll just pass and take 4. It's not lethal. If they cast... Okay, I was going to say, if they cast something right now, I Thought Collapse, they've got no cards in library now. Unless they have another counterspell for 2. We'll see. Just the blink of an eye on Patient Rebuilding. No cards left in library means that will be our 5th win with our Dimir Mill. That was definitely an interesting game. Certainly panned out for us, playing against another slower deck. Kind of a Grixis control kind of thing. And with Grixis, they were just the right color scheme to not have a way to interact with our enchantments. That was really big for us. I think games like that, matchups like that, can be entirely decided on whether or not they have the counterspell at the right time, because counterspells can obviously counter anything, so they could counter our enchantments that way. But other than that, they just couldn't stop the inevitability of Patient Rebuilding. Good stuff there. We had a really fun start too, just milling like 12 cards and then just kind of chilling. Alright, I'll keep this hand. We're at 5 wins now. Whatever happens here, we're getting 4,000 gold right back out of this. That's how much it costs to play. So, nice free draft here. So we're playing against Orzhov. Mortify and Order of Midnight in the grave with a black and white land. Neither of those necessarily mean they're black-white life gain, but that's generally what black-white does, so I would not be surprised to see a turn 2 of Johnny's Primate or something, and that would be pretty scary. Seems like we're pretty likely to be able to cast a Patient Rebuilding turn 5 here. We just need it to hit 1 more land. It's gonna have a decent start there. Charming Prince, another card that's a signpost for the white-black life gain decks, because you can gain the 3 life and trigger your Griffinary and stuff like that off of it, which is good. Alright. I get to play a Merfolk Windrobber, start milling them 1 a turn by hitting them in the sky. Definitely not going to Silent Departure the Charming Prince, because when it comes into play, it gives them more value. Plus, I have a 0/4 blocker that can just block it forever. Chromatic Lantern. Okay. Definitely a more interesting white-black deck than I was expecting. Not all of the pretty standard stuff that I'm used to seeing. Drown in the Loch, they've got 4 cards in their grave, so I kind of want to just hold on to that rather than dropping down Talrand's Invocation. So I'm not really trying to race them with attackers. I'm just trying to make sure that they don't do anything super scary here, and I can inevitably beat them with a Patient Rebuilding on the board. So we'll just hold on to the Drown in the Lock. Make sure they don't cast like Heliod or something, because Heliod can kill you so fast. Veto can too, but I can just destroy Veto. So I don't need to counter that. I can wait until that's actually doing a lot, and then I can just destroy it at that point. With Heliod, I would have to counter it immediately, because Heliod's indestructible. I can't destroy that when it hits the board. If I just draw my 5th mana for Patient Rebuilding, will I be sad that I didn't shoot Veto right now is the question. I don't think so. They just don't have that much power on the board yet, so Veto's not that bad. I can kill him later if I really need to, but if they don't expand their board with even more creatures, Veto's not even that bad for me. Faith's Fetters on the Merfolk Windrobber. They don't have 8 or more cards in their grave yet, so unfortunately I don't get to sacrifice to draw the card there. Alright, draw a card. Did hit 2 lands there, so we got to draw 2 extra cards, actually. I have 6 mana up, so I can play a 4 mana spell and hold up Drown in the Lock as a removal spell for Veto or a counter spell for anything else. So I just cast my 2/2 flyers. I get to block their Veto with both of them if they send in, so I doubt they will. Oath of Kaya, deal 3 damage to something and gain 3. I guess I don't get to block Veto that way, but I also don't want to counter that with Drown in the Lock because that's my answer to Pridemate or Veto. So I guess it happens. I'm going to deal 3 to my face, so that would be 3 to me, they gain 3, and then 3 more to me with Veto's ability. I guess I Drown in the Lock on Veto, and once Pridemate gets like too big, I can just bounce Pridemate back to their hand and they have to start from ground zero again. I could also just Water Knot the Pridemate, since it doesn't have an ability that's relevant. Yeah, actually, let's just Water Knot Pridemate. I couldn't just Water Knot Veto, because then they're still draining life from me every time they gain life. But Pridemate is just a big dork. If I shut down its ability to attack, I'm fine. Got 17 cards left. So we're getting there, slowly but surely, as you do. We've got 24 over here. Sky Tether on the Aven Eternal. Okay. Don't get to get like super aggressive here. Ooh, they had an Ashiok in their deck. See, this is why I didn't get Ruin Crab or Ashiok. Like, they're just so powerful at milling that people will just take them when they don't do anything particular in their deck. They're just like, oh, Ashiok is really strong, so I'm going to take Ashiok. Like, this is straight up like a white-black life gain deck with all of the white-black synergies in the world. But they've scooped up an Ashiok, and they're running an Ashiok. Like, that is the problem with the cards that are like the most powerful cards for whatever strategies. That'll happen like every time. Unfortunately, Patient Rebuilding gets exiled here. Like, if a card is so strong that it's really good in its particular archetype and still quite powerful in any other deck, you're just never going to get that card in your deck when you're in the archetype because people are just taking it for their own decks. So that is the sad part of Ashiok being so good. So Compelling Argument, mill them 5, they're at 13. That seems fun, but Vicious Offering might be better. I mean, I've got so much stuff on this board. I think I'm pretty safe. I don't really need removal. We'll take a Compelling Argument. That's pretty cool. Draw a Perilous Mirror. Yeah. Got blockers for days. We're going into a top deck war that they only have... I guess they have 8 turns to draw into an answer for my stuff, but I don't. I could Silent Departure my own Merfolk Windrobber, right? I could do that and start milling them 1 a turn again. I could also Silent Departure my Secret Keeper and mill them 4 right now. You know what? And then I do it next turn, mill them 4 more, and they've got no cards left. I did not even realize. I probably could have done that some other game and didn't notice it. That's unfortunate. If I did have the ability to do that in another game and it would have mattered. But the fact that I'm doing it now is pretty cool. That means next turn I just mill the rest of their library by picking up Merfolk's Secret Keeper again. Silent Departure, actually extra cool in the mill strategy with Merfolk's Secret Keeper. So they know what the top 3 cards of their deck are. They know what their final cards are. We'll just take 3. They've got no cards in hand, so just recast Merfolk's Secret Keeper. And the deck is gone. Yeah, now that I'm thinking back on it, there was that one game against like red-green where they got down to like 5 cards in their deck or something. If I had a Merfolk Secret Keeper on field there and I had my bounce spell, that would have been embarrassing because that means I could redo the thing. I'll have to look back on that. I always say that, but I never rewatch my videos because I just don't have time. Basically, all of my time that I get to spend playing Magic is like spent recording the videos. I don't really have time to like rewatch the whole video when I'm looking at specific plays and stuff. Because it's like a draft a day. That's like on average like 2 hours a day. That's like 14 hours a week. I record a lot of Magic. I guess 2 hours is a little bit of an overestimate, but if you take into account the time just like making the thumbnails and uploading them and stuff, I guess it would be probably 2 hours on average. But anyways, I do like the discussion in the comments for that kind of stuff though, because it makes it so I can look back on certain plays and decisions and stuff and see where things went a little wrong. Because I don't have the time to like go back into the video and just like watch the whole thing and analyze and stuff. Whenever somebody like comments something and they put like a timestamp and they're like, well, at this spot, I think you could have done this. Then I actually get to just like look at the comment, click on it, and just like bam, right there, I'm right into the moment where I get to see exactly where something went wrong. So in that sense, I do get to look back on them and look back on the misplays and where things might have went better, which is cool. So I guess I sort of do look back on them, thanks to all of you in the comments below. All of you lovely people. So we're against Boros. I'm scared. Those can be very, very fast, aggressive decks. And as we've seen from most of the games that we've won, our deck is pretty slow. We just try to get a patient rebuilding on the board and then slowly drain our opponent's library of all their cards. Excuse me. So against a deck with like Earthshaker Kenra, I'm worried. I'll say that for sure. Because I have Quench and Drown in the lock here, I'm not going to pay the 2 life on the Watery Grave to be able to hold up Thought Collapse. I have 2 other ways to counter things. One of which is not going to work in the late game, whereas Thought Collapse will always work. So I would rather keep all of my life preserved and just use Quench this turn, if they have something I need to stop. Same with the Kenra. I assume this is because if they get rid of Perilous Mirror now, I only get to kill one of their things. But I'm still going to take this trade and slow them down. It does hurt not being able to get the 2 for 1, but I can, if they play like a good creature as a follow-up, I can Quench it. They do get to recast the Earthshaker Kenra once they hit 6 mana. Maybe they're stuck on 2 here, though. They're definitely thinking for a while. This could be all a big play to make me think something more is happening than possible. Oh, I didn't even mention it, but this is the final boss, I think. I think we're at 6 wins and 2 losses, so whatever happens here, this is the final game. Can we hit the 7-win run with Dimir Mill? I'm trying to think of all the strategies I've done so far. Have I done every color scheme yet? I highly doubt it. Chandra, nah. Nah. Chandra's minus ability is like really good against Mill, because they can just recast their instants and sorceries that I mill, which is really valuable. Ooh, I would have really liked to hit a land there. Obviously, even if I didn't draw Mind Rack Harpy, I'm really wanting to hit lands to get to Patient Rebuilding, but now that I've drawn Mind Rack Harpy, I am very hurting for another land. At least I have a Thought Collapse coming up. That Earthshaker Kenner being able to come out is going to be really spooky too. We're going to Thought Collapse here, mill them some more. Now Drown in the Loch can deal with literally anything, and I can draw a card off Wind Robber if I don't hit a land. I do hit a land, so we're playing the Harpy. And milling them again with the Wind Robber. They are 2 mana away from the Earthshaker Kenra. So, hopefully, that will just be too slow. They have 19 cards in their library, though, so they've got a lot of time to try to kill me. I'm milling them 4 a turn, 3 from the Harpy, 1 from Wind Robber. If I hit Patient Rebuilding mana, I can start milling them 7 a turn. That'd be like a 2-turn clock right there, if I hit that immediately. But we'll have to see what they play here. They may play something that I really need to drown. I guess I don't get to mill them with the Wind Robber anymore, but that's not that aggressive. That makes me pretty safe to just drop down Patient Rebuilding. It's just 2 damage, that's fine. They're almost definitely dropping the Earthshaker Kenra here. Silent Departure is a fantastic mill for us. Now we can depart their Earthshaker Kenra token. Oh, they had to come into play tapped land here. I guess they only have 4 mana anyway. I guess they missed a land drop last turn. That's really, really good for me. Alright, they can gain all the life they want. We're definitely winning based on mill and not life totals here. Wizard's Lightning the Harpy. That hurts, but we don't have any way to stop it. Patient Rebuilding is the win con now at 3 a turn instead of milling 6 a turn. A little sad in that sense, but I think we can still get there. Ooh, Merfolk Secret Keeper? We can really get there now. They have 11 cards. They have 7 cards. Play this and hold up Drown in the Loch. So they have 6 cards left, so I mill 3 off Rebuilding and 4 more off of Secret Keeper. Silent Departure on Secret Keeper is lethal next turn. All I have to do is survive this turn, so we're holding up our counterspell to do that. Can't counter that, but they only do 6 damage, so we're safe. I can destroy that when it hits the board if I want to, but again, there's just not a reason to. Just get all 6 cards here. Down to 3, and now with Silent Departure, they're down to 0 cards. That'll be it. That'll be the end of the run. We have defeated the Boros aggro deck. Did look like they definitely stumbled on mana a little bit, and they didn't have the most aggressive curve either, so not a great lineup of draws for them, and our deck did pretty much what it's designed to do. We hit our gas, Mind Rack Harpy and Patient Rebuilding, had the Harpy out for a couple turns, and then the Patient Rebuilding to finish it off. Really nice showing from the Dimir Mill deck. Let's see if that was the end. I may have miscounted my matches, but I think we're 7-2. All right, we did it after the 2 early losses, I think, as well. I think we were like 3-2, and then now we're 7-2. Pretty nice run at the end there. So we get our 6,000 gold out of it and 3 cards. Let's see what these prize cards are. Or not. Well, that's rude, Arena. I wanted to... Can I see in my collection? If I got any new stuff? Oh, there they are. We got a Glory Bringer. Really nice. That's probably historic playable. Card was bonkers in Standard and ridiculous in Limited. Shaper's Sanctuary. Cool. I didn't have one before. Never seen this card played, but it's interesting. I didn't have one before. Now I've got one for Historic Brawl and stuff for Singleton formats. And Wildest Dreams. Wildest Dreams is actually a really good card to have. If they ever add multiplayer to this, this card's actually really nice in Commander, so I would love it there. It's probably okay in Historic Brawl for the same reason, just because it's good in Commander. The problem is Historic Brawl is 1v1, so you don't have as much room to play like really slow stuff like this, but the card is really cool, and it's got fantastic artwork. So really nice rewards at the end too. All around a pretty great draft. I guess we made a deal with the devil, taking Mill there. Well, at the end of the video, as always, I would like to thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see more of this content, you're at the right place. Just stick around. You can subscribe for more, or you can check the Twitch channel out in the description below. I don't really have a set schedule for the live streams, but next week, with the launch of Kaldheim being only literally a week away at this point, I will definitely be streaming some practice Kaldheim drafts over there when I'm not recording plenty of those drafts for the channel. So as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.